Welcome back to yet another episode of the Tango Banter. This is episode number 60. I am your host, Yelizaveta. I started dancing tango back in 2009, and the thing I love most about it is the astonishing variety of people that I get to meet. Really, if it was not for tango, most of the people I have met over the past decade, I would never have an opportunity or an incentive to really meet in the real world. One of these is my good friend Maziar Amirani, an Iranian electrical engineer who grew up playing basketball and loves classical music. The odds of someone like that getting into tango are always fascinating to explore for me. So this is why I decided to sit down with Maziar for a proper banter on the subject. We ended up covering a lot of ground. Everything from how an Iranian engineer student started tango in Louisiana to what it takes to live as a tango nomad in a post-pandemic world. So take a listen and enjoy my conversation with Maziar Amirani. The idea for recording an interview with you came from this realization that I've had for a long time, that you and I have been dancing for forever. I mean, we started in 2014, right? So it's like 9 years that we've been dancing, you know? And I thought our connection represents a pretty unique tango relationship, which is that we see each other at an event, we dance multiple tandas and have this deep connection to the music, and we really connect on other levels. But then I'm like, I don't know much about you. You know what I mean? Which I thought that's like a real tango relationship a lot of times. And I have many of them with different people, and I'm sure you do too, where it's like you meet them, you dance with them a lot, but you don't necessarily like have a ongoing connection in between. And it was sort of a paradoxical thing to realize that for other people, they might not understand how that even works, how that's possible. So I was like, that would be interesting to just actually use this as an opportunity to get to know you better as a person, and get a little bit of insight into what is tango to you and what tango functions, how it functions in your life. And just from the interactions that we've already had while you've been here, I guess I want to start with really understanding it. How did you get into basketball?
Interesting. I never thought about the story of my basketball participation. So I need to go way back if I want to explain this, what happened. So I grew up in Iran, right? In Tehran, the most common thing that kids would play is usually play soccer on the street. That's the pretty common thing, that they get a ball, just, I don't know, find a couple stones or bricks or something, make some sort of a virtual goal on the sides of the street, and there's a goalie or whatever. There's even street rules for that to play the soccer on the street.
Does it differ from group to group? You make up your own rules, or is it just sort of understood?
It's group and neighborhood dependent. Basically, people can play with different rules based on the environment. The place might not have out of bound, might be defined in a different way, for example, right? If the ball goes out of bound. But anyway, that's the most common thing. So basketball is not really that common for people to play. Here, you can see every corner there's a court, and there's a kid with a basketball, or like shooting or practicing something. That was not really as common back then. So I remember up to maybe 4th grade, 5th grade, I was playing soccer on the street,
And what year was this? What years was this that you were in Iran?
So I was born 81.
Okay.
So
wow, I didn't realize that we were pretty much the same age.
Right. I think we talked about
we did.
this.
We did.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Huh.
I'm December 81. So
wow, December 81.
Yeah.
Okay. So you spent the 80s. You know, we were in Iran at the same time.
Right.
I was
you were
born
there.
in Tehran.
Right.
That's so
Which
weird.
Year, 82?
I was born in 82.
Okay.
So you're in the 80s, you're there, you're playing soccer.
Right. So as a kid's sport, on this like kids' fun time, it was either bicycling or playing soccer on the street with the kids.
And do you have siblings?
I have one sister, but
Okay.
of course she wasn't playing soccer on the
No.
street with us. So it was, yeah.
Really? Because girls didn't do that.
Yeah, it was a boys' thing. They
Boys'
play
thing.
soccer. And sometimes maybe a tough girl might want to play, but it's a very rare case.
Yeah.
So anyway, I remember it was like maybe I was 4th or 5th grade at school that we had the opportunity to have a hoop, actual basketball hoop. So, and I actually didn't know what is a basketball ball. So, like at some point I got introduced to it. Okay, this is the basketball ball. This is how you play it. So I was really excited to dribble and be able to like manage the ball.
So how old are you at this point?
So let's say I'm like 4th, 5th grade will be like, I don't know, 10, 12.
Okay.
Like 12 years old, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And I remember that's when I started playing with the basketball ball and the hoop, and still not playing as a team, just single
gotcha.
person playing with the ball. And then we soon started playing at school. So from when I went to the middle school, right after the 5th grade, I went to the middle school. I remember we started playing every day. We would play basketball on the break time. Before the school starts, after the school ends, depending like whatever time we had, we would always play basketball every day. Even on the weekends, we would just gather on the street. Maybe we would have a hoop somewhere.
It was just that addictive.
Right. So at some point, we installed the hoop at the front of our home and at our house actually. And all my friends would gather like summers. Every day in the summer, would play like 3-4 hours of basketball.
Wow.
And we would pass out.
Wow.
And I mean, of course, later it would end up to other activities. Like we would go, I don't know,
so
parties or.
I mean, it seems now, knowing you as a tango dancer, it feels very similar that you have that same addictive passion towards tango that you did towards basketball or soccer.
I think basketball has more of that aspect that tango has as a collaborative game than soccer has. So I don't know if you pay attention closely to a basketball game or a soccer game. Soccer game has a lot less one-on-one battles, as in one person has the position of the ball and the other person tries to defend it and the other one tries to pass it. Like usually as soon as someone gets close to the person who owns the ball, they pass the ball away because it's very tricky to keep the position of the ball with your legs when someone's around you, right? You need to walk and run and keep the ball, so it's very difficult. But with basketball, you're doing it with your hands, so you can easily have your back or defend the ball when someone's next to you. You can even hold the ball without somebody being able to touch it. Even if someone's behind you, you can still control the ball and pass it later. So there's more of body-to-body action. Basically, another person is next to you. You have to work with them without making a fault, be able to basically handle the ball around them. So there's more one-on-one activity. Also, team is smaller. So instead of 11 versus 11 people, it's like 5 people versus 5 people. So a lot closer kind of interactions between people. So I think, again, basketball brings more of all of those aspects that we were talking earlier about tango into the.
Yeah, so what is it exactly that you see as the common denominator between tango and basketball? Because in my mind, basketball is about, sort of fighting the other person or anybody who comes close to you. It's about opposition. It's about defending. Right. But in tango, it's a little bit more like you have to kind of connect with the other person and you're working towards a common goal.
Right. So I see it as slightly different. So in basketball, I won't call it, I mean, force is needed for a sport. I mean, you can use force as much as required. Some people can play really tough and there might be injuries because of that. Some people especially myself, I play really light. I don't do conflicts. I try to have minimum body to body push and impact, and maybe even like any sort of force. I try to minimize it. Like I just want to get the ball. I don't want to like
fight for it.
Fight the person. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I jump with the person to deflect the ball, but I'm not jumping to actually like hold the person or try to push the person. Of course, that would be a fault if I want to do that, right? So because of that, because you want to prevent the fault, and you still need to be close to the other person, you need to have a lot of awareness of what is the person doing, and because of the fact that they're controlling the ball with their hands and they have their legs free, they can trick you easily. They can show you that they're going that way and quickly change that they're going the other way.
Right.
So you need to be very aware of how you're agile to do that changes. And I think that translates to tango really well, because you need to know where's the other person with respect to you. How can you move to get away from them, or get close to them, or go with them, or go opposite to them? Like all those correlations is without thinking, without looking. It's just basically by perception of your body. You know where that other person is. What are they doing? Where's the other path to go? What you know what I'm saying? There's so much of the unsaid, so much of an untold that is happening. Right. But it's just body to body experience.
Yeah. It has to be felt through the body. So that idea of the proprioception, right? Training or experiencing that proprioceptive challenge of being able to tell where you are in space and where the other body is.
Right.
So it seems like you've always been drawn to anything that allows you to feel that. Is that what you feel like you're drawn to?
So at that time I wasn't thinking about it that way. I was just seeing basketball as a fun, challenging game that I was good at. I was actually good at. I was good at dribbling. I was good at.
And you're tall.
Tricking people. Yeah, I was tall. I could jump. I could rebound. I could do really collaborative passing to get along the court and get to the next. The other side of the hoop. And I was not an aggressive player, so people liked to play with me. Even though I was big, I wouldn't like kill people, hitting them and injure them.
Not like Shaquille O'Neal or anything.
Right. I mean, you're playing on asphalt. You don't want to fall down, right? It's really taxing when you want to do street ball. It's
a different experience.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I mean, there was a time I even had braces, like the orthodoncy braces.
Really?
So that was like brutal. I would hit ball in my face, and like imagine that.
You wore braces.
Disaster.
Another thing I never knew about you. Wow.
2.5 years.
2.5 years. And were they the metal kind? The old school metal kind?
Old school, right. All of them.
Can't
every
imagine
single
you.
tooth.
So you kind of like always been drawn to action and being active and moving. Something about movement.
And as far as I remember, I was always good with motor skills. Like, it's actually quite common, happens even now. Things fall and I catch them. Like if something is in my hand, it falls, I catch it. Or something is on the table, it falls, I'll catch it. And people a lot of times say like a nice catch. Like I actually can react and catch something most of the times. So I'm thinking in general, I'm good with kind of that, knowing what. Like I went to like shooting range twice so far, and even the first time I went there, the person who took me there was like, he wouldn't believe, like, is it your first time really?
Wow. I guess I'm curious how you imagine, or how would you explain, what is it about movement and this sort of active pursuit of something, like what do you enjoy about that process? Like there's something about it for you that is really satisfying. Is it just the success of doing it well, or is there something more fundamental?
I mean, I think it's always kind of brings me into that flow state. If I'm running, if I'm biking, if I'm driving a car, if I'm driving a motorcycle, if I'm even, I don't know, doing something that requires all that balance, the scenery change, the speed, and the movement. Like you do that even when you're playing a sport like a basketball, you do that, right? The way you might curve around something, or trying to go as fast as you can to lay up
Yeah.
for the goal as the person is going with you to defend it. Like all those things, like it's some sort of flow, right? Some.
I see.
you
So
don't-
it is an access point to the flow state for you. It
Right.
doesn't matter what you're doing. You're
Right.
sort of using the activity to channel you into a
Right.
state of flow.
I think so. Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, before I know the flow, I didn't know. I was just, it feels nice. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how the time goes by, and I'm really enjoying what I'm doing because, especially that I could feel that I'm good at it. I could play nice. People enjoyed playing alongside with me,
Yeah.
even on the opposite team or with my team. Doesn't matter. Like it was nice to experience that. I think.
So then, how did you actually get into tango?
So Tango started when I moved to United States. After I moved to United States for my master's,
And what year was this?
that was 2010.
2010.
2010,
Okay.
August 2010. I moved to United States for continuing my education in master's.
And what was the program?
It was electrical engineering in LSU, Louisiana
Gotcha.
State University, in Baton Rouge. So I started in August. I think it was actually 7th of August when I arrived. I'm not sure. Anyway, so after the first 2 semesters, I remember it was end of the second semester. It was like towards the finals. We had maybe a week to the finals or something like that. I received an email from ICC, International Cultural Center of LSU, that there's gonna be Argentine tango at ICC Wednesday, blah blah blah. There's gonna be a 1-hour beginners class. It's free. You don't have to have a partner or experience or anything. Just come, celebrate the night. You don't have to dance. You don't have to do anything. Just come watch, because ICC tries to do something for the international students. There's so many international students at LSU. LSU is a huge campus, huge university. There's a really huge number of international students over there. So the ICC tries to collect all the cultures together under that hall. And Tango community of Baton Rouge, which is a small group of people, they work with ICC to hold a once a month milonga at ICC, because ICC has a huge wooden floor, nice venue. So it's a win for tango dancers if they want to have a milonga. That's a great place. It's on campus. So many fresh students that they might want to start picking up tango. They show up. So I saw the email. I was like, oh, this is so exciting. Maybe I should go check it out. Especially like it was like, I don't know, 8-9 months I was in the country. I was kind of bored, not many friends, not much to do. Like, okay, summer is about to start, so I better do something, something with my time. So I went to my first tango lesson. I went there. I met people. I took the lesson. I remember I was sitting watching people dance. This is quite interesting. And I was watching people dancing, and I could hear the music. And I was thinking, the music is quite interesting. I was already pretty musical by then because I was exploring music so much. I haven't tapped into classical yet as much as I wanted to, but I was really involved in exploring different genres of music, different types, old and new, as much as I could. So the music sounded very interesting to me. I was like, this is interesting. I want to see what's more of this. But then I was watching people dancing, and I was like, this is impossible based on what I just experienced in this 1 hour. Like, how are these people doing this? Like, how is this even possible? So I was basically fascinated just watching this. I was like, okay, I want to be more part of this. I want to learn this. Maybe I can do this. And then as I got more involved, I realized, wow, this is like family to me. These people are gathering every week. They have fun. They take care of each other. They enjoy each other. They dance. They chat. They eat. Like all these good social activities that I was actually lacking at that time. It was all there, and it was in the perfect form, which I wanted to learn the American culture, and that was a perfect way for me because there was so many Americans and also so many internationals. So it was like a huge mix of everything being explained inside the tiny group. So I really enjoyed that. I was basically hanging out with them all the time. It was me split between university and tango people. So that's how the journey started. Since then until the pandemic, the longest I didn't dance was a week.
Wow.
It was
So how many years is that?
That is 2011, June of 2011, something like that, till...
That's when you started.
That's when I started, March of 2020, like
now,
9 years.
Yeah, I haven't thought of this, that when you're coming into United States at the time, you had been in Iran the whole time. You were part of the community there, family, familiarity.
Right.
And here you are
Friends,
in
right.
Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Yeah, suddenly like the whole world changes. Like,
wow. Was that a stressful, like depressing time for you? Was it difficult in that way? Or?
I can say actually it was quite exciting because I was looking forward to it so much. I was so done with the life I had in Iran. I was so much looking forward to this.
Did it feel like you kind of outgrew your environment and you wanted like something different, or was there other reasons that you...
Oh, no, I mean, just because of the society and the governance and all that, it's just very difficult to explore the interest that I have. I mean, I was always interested in technology, in software, in hardware, in music, in dance, in all sorts of activities that a lot of them are not really as accessible over there. Technology is not very accessible.
Interesting.
I mean, being in a country that is kind of embargoed, technology is a difficult thing, and of course, expenses for the technology are high. Again, technology won't be as accessible. And then when you tap into the other things, because of the social structure, it can be more difficult. Music or dance or partying, or all these things will become a little more restricted.
Yeah, because I'm thinking even the idea that of dancing with a woman in a close embrace, like that. Was that like a huge leap for you? Was that something that was...
No, so we would
unusual?
dance with our friends. We were a group of friends that we were always hanging out together. We were dance together. We were even trying to do something like tango. We had no idea what is tango, but we thought like this is tango, so we know something like tango, just stepping side to side, like, I don't know, prom dancing.
Yeah.
So no, we would dance. We were pretty we were raised pretty open. The group of friends that we were all together, so we were having a lot of fun. We were living as we are living, like here or in Europe, but it was just basically in Iran. So within our group, we were all open and easy.
How many people were in your group?
There was like closer ones that would hang out more together, maybe like 10 of us, and then there was like extended more that would invite more people for like...
Do you still keep up with those people?
We're still somehow in touch, like some of them more again, some of them less, but we're still...
What do they think of your tango?
I mean, they're all... I mean, some they all have their own views. Like most of them, of course, they like it and they're like, "Oh, this is so cool," and they always say like, "I want to check it out," but they never do. Of course. And there are some that they might make fun of it or like might not understand it as well. Like,
wow. Now, when you say in the same breath that you were interested in software and technology, and then music and dance, to me those seem to be very different categories, and I always sort of view one as being more left brain, one as being more right brain. But do you find that there's a continuity between these interests? Like, how come you're both interested in dance and technology? Like,
well, good point. I see it as complexity. Because I see music as complexity. I like complex music, and I see technology as complexity. Like technology tries to simplify a complex problem, sometimes even with more complexity. Like the system can be pretty complex in technology when you're working with it. Either it's a scientific fact that it can be complex, and even this technological solution to it or the application of it also can be pretty complex. And also I see music can be a very complex matter to understand, to enjoy, to cherish. And then the dance, also the same thing, especially when it gets to partner dancing, because you're dealing with another nervous system that you have no control over, right?
So you kind of, I'm getting the sense that you're seeing it as a complex problem, same way that you see a technological complex problem, and you have to solve it in real time.
Right. I think I truly believe in that. Something that is more difficult, there's higher the learning curve, it's usually more reward when you get it down. Then, like for example, playing piano is a very complex thing to do, but when you get it to do, it's so satisfying that you can produce all that colors of notes with both hands and just enjoy yourself playing that whole instrument. That is actually two instruments together.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. So it's so interesting that you bring that up, because I am in the middle of not learning piano, but like learning how to play tango on piano, and I'm really frustrated. And I'm curious if you have a particular way you approach a complex problem, because for me, and maybe a lot of people, when you see complexity, it's like, oh my God, no. And, you know, there's like this fear of it, or doubt that you'll be able to figure it out, or you just want to give up right away because it's like, this is way too hard. Right. What's your approach to this kind of
interesting
thing?
Question, and I have a longer answer for this, because I was always fascinated with learning. I was always fascinated with the concept of learning, how to learn, like what basically, of course, I'm very curious. I want to learn everything. So if there's something I don't know, I will definitely ask question or try to poke around to see like, what is this thing? Like I need to understand it. So I always have that curious mind. I don't know if you notice. I always ask questions, like dumb questions, stupid questions. I would ask them because it is actually a question to me, like which one is the correct answer. And I'm really fascinated by how to learn. Like I believe that each of us will learn differently. Different topics even differently. Like very simple way of saying it is like some people learn by watching, some people learn by hearing the instructions, right? Some people learn by doing it actually, and I always, of course, interested in how would I learn something. If there's something that I need to learn, what would be the easiest way for me to learn it? If it's my studies, if it's cooking, if it's, I don't know, riding a bike or driving a car, like what is the way for me to learn? What is the... So sometimes it's just pure practice, as in like you just need to have a mindless practice. Of course, having presence of the mind can be important, but sometimes it's not necessary. As long as you do it every day, that practice, eventually you can get it done. Like for example, I try to do that with my handstand. When I try to do handstand every day, and just do it. Maybe, I mean, think about it. I think about it a little bit, but you can probably do a handful of handstands in a day. You cannot do too many. You cannot do like 100 handstands probably in a day. It's really tiring. And then those few times that you do, you can only think about, oh, maybe today I felt a little weaker here, or stronger here, or better here, or more balanced here. But that's it. There's not much brain presence. Just passive presence is there, and neuroactivity is happening just because you're trying to maintain that position. Brain is doing its thing, but it's just the consistent practice of it happening. Same thing is with tango, of course. A lot of practice of the same motion helps you figure out what is the easiest way to make that motion, but also you need to also decipher, okay, what are the possibilities? What are the things I can do? Right? What are the movements I can create? What are the new figures maybe you can bring out? For me, I know that I have my own shortcuts. So a lot of times I know that if it takes me an hour to learn something, if I know someone really well, maybe I can help them achieve that 1 hour in like 15 minutes maybe. Because just if you point out the turning points of the learning, like the key points that they need to spend time to get to that point, if you maybe sometimes tell them in advance, they can get to it faster because they know what to seek for. Sometimes that can backfire. So it's like a very open topic. It's like, what is the best way to learn something? And the more complex it is, the more complex is the answer.
So what is interesting to me when I hear you is like you come up to a complex problem, and most people like myself will be looking at the problem and going, oh my God, this is so complex, how am I ever going to figure it out? Whereas you're coming up to it and you're saying, this is a complex problem, what do I need to do to learn, or to find my way into understanding a solution? which I think is such a productive way of looking at complexity that really helps, especially with something like tango, for sure, because tango has that, for many people, including myself, tango has that feeling of like, oh my God, this is way too much. I could never do that. And I hear that comment from people like my sister or people in my life who don't dance, and they look at it and the first thing they ask is like, oh my God, how is this happening? There's no way I could do something like that. But on the other side of that, when you have figured it out, you sort of want to tell this person like, no, you can, you can do this pretty easily, but there's these mindset stages that you have to allow for before the learning happens. So it kind of starts answering my other question that I've had for a long time, that you are an electrical engineer and a tango dancer. And for a long time I was like, how does that work? Does this feel like one is a one kind of process, like when you do your electrical engineering work versus when you dance, or is there a continuum? It feels like there's more continuity for you that I'm
between the two.
Yeah, between the two. Do they feel like sort of really opposite processes, or?
I see it more of as like complementary of each other. One is very analytical, and I need to be on my own time, kind of solo, solving a very practical problem, right? Very math, kind of very engineering problem that is like 2 + 2 is 4. There's no other
answer possible,
right? And that is that. I need to just sit on a chair, kind of in a terrible position, behind a computer for hours to try to solve something very abstract, very kind of math-oriented, versus the nighttime that is music and movement and dancing and no analytics, and it's just art and creativity and like feelings. Regarding learning a complex matter, which is the dance, the tango, the dance itself. Like, okay, where does my leg move? Where does my chest move to do something? That's one thing. Of course, by practicing and eventually like pointing it out, somebody might get what to do. But what I really like on another side on tango, not necessarily this part, I like the rest of it, which is being in a social part, like kind of navigating the social river of tango. So we all know that you learn a movement or a figure or whatever, and then you start dancing with someone, and it might work, it might not work, right? Even it might not work at certain times, it might work at some other certain times. So I really like that part. That is the very gooey part that there's no answer to it, right? It's like you just go into this pool and figure out how do you come out at the end of the night, because you go in and then you come out at the end of the night either happy of your night or not happy. And it does not necessarily mean that you dance the entire night or not. I mean, it's just you can dance the entire night and not be happy. You can just have a few dances and be super happy, or just have conversations and be super happy. So I really like that part a lot, as in like the most complex part of tango is the social part of it, that how to go bring your dance to the other dancers and try to create an environment that everybody enjoys. You can enjoy your night and bring the joy to other people's night. Yeah, I really like that part of tango a lot. That is very difficult to teach. Nobody can teach that part, right? It's basically human skill. Thinking about, let's say you go out for dinner, right? You go out for dinner with your colleagues. It's a night that you end up having some conversations, having a meal together, visit some jokes, visit some facts, and then the night is over. It's kind of similar thing happens in the night of tango. Like you chat with people, you dance with some people are telling about their pains, some people are about telling about their joy, and kind of the night is over. It's similar to that. Instead of the dinner, it's the dances. Right. Right. And I really like that part of tango, that complexity of that part that nobody can tell you. You can only figure it out by just being in there. I think that is the best part of it. I mean, of course, dancing is amazing and super fun, but that part is, how can I say? It's always the mystery part. Like, okay, what is tonight when I'm showing up? Like, am I gonna have a good night? Can I make it a good night?
Yeah, and sometimes it doesn't matter what you do, it's a bad night, or sometimes you come in and you're expecting it to be a bad night and it turns out to be a great night.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that is such a gamble,
Right.
that there's some sort of reward to find out on the other side of it.
It's more like a skilled gamble. Like there's some element of chance, but after a while you can become more repeatable. Like finding the people that you can make the night fun.
Yeah.
Or finding the circumstances that you can make the night.
Yeah, and I guess the reward or the satisfaction is the accumulation of that knowledge and that data, so that then you can make informed decisions. You can be more intuitive, and you can strike gold more often. I guess I think of it that way, that beginner dancers or somebody who's coming in on the scene early on, they might be attached to it being a certain way. They want it to be great. They want to make sure that they get the dances that they want. And if they don't, they think it's a failure and it's a bad night, and therefore they're not going to go back, or they're going to, go somewhere else. And I think it's very natural to feel that at the beginning, because it's sort of, you're coming in with this very binary idea that's like, it's either good or bad. And when it's good, it's good, and when it's bad, that means bad, right? But eventually you realize the bad is just as interesting, because to me, I frequently will soak in the bad in a way and assess, like, why is it bad? Like, what is exactly that's bad? And it's interesting to me to use it as a sort of a path to learning about myself, because it's always a reflection of my own preferences or limitations. Mindset, so for me it'll be like, well, it was the lighting. I hate the lighting. The lighting was terrible, and for me it was like, oh, interesting, lighting makes a big difference for me. Like that's something that I've learned about myself. Or the sound quality or different details can really turn the experience for me. And I really resonate with your idea of the social gamble, or the mystery of the social river in tango, as being the true source of experience. And I want to add, I guess, that in addition to it being just sort of like this interesting complexity, it's also a reflection of yourself, and you're sort of learning about yourself as you're experiencing. And that part in itself is addictive, because each time that you go, sometimes I discover things about myself that are new through interacting with people a certain way, or multiple times along my path there would be these experiences where I go in and I have a certain opinion of how I am being perceived, or what my level of dance is, or who I am in relation to other people, and somebody will give me feedback or comment that completely contradicts that. So I was thinking that person doesn't really want to dance with me because I'm not really of the level. And then that person comes up to me and they're like, when are you going to dance with me? Why aren't you dancing with me? And I'm like, whoa, that's completely a different reality. Like, my reality has just shifted. And I think, to me, there are so few opportunities for us to experience that as adults. Like, as kids, we're experiencing that all the time, because everything's very new, right? And we're exposed to new experiences, and we sort of have to learn. But as adults, we seem primarily to be guided into like a slotted sort of existence, where every day is sort of the same. You go to work, you see the same people, you have the same interactions, and there's not much opportunity to like shift your perspective unless there's some sort of cathartic event or something that happens that changes your perspective. But with tango, every single time you go, there's a possibility that your reality might shift, and your perception of what is true can shift. So your journey with tango started out with you biking to Malanga, then you were spending all this time with people, then you got a car, and you were going, and since then it's sort of gotten more and more extreme to where now you're the classical tango nomad. So what does your life look like now?
That's very interesting. I never looked at it that way. So if I want to see what happened, so I started 2011. I danced until 2013 that I was in Louisiana. So about 2.5 years, I danced over there. After I moved out of Louisiana to California in 2013, of course, until the end of the year, I was still local exploring what's happening. And then from 2014, I started exploring, okay, what is traveling for tango? Like, so I went to Portland. The first event I went to was the Portland Marathon.
And that's where we met.
That's where we met.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was the Portland Marathon. And then the second event I went to was the LA Marathon. So, and then after I tasted what is traveling and dancing with a huge number of dancers at the marathon or festival, I immediately realized I want to go to more marathons than festivals. And I want to go to the marathons that my friends, the group that I know that I will enjoy spending time with are going. So I started basically exploring different ones. It ramped up as my job became more secure. My traveling for tango and splurging for tango kind of increased to a point. I think it would be up to before pandemic, because office was every day. I could travel maybe every other month, like every 2 months I would have like one travel, something like that, until it got to pandemic and there was no dancing. I was so miserable. Like, are we gonna ever dance again? And as soon as the knockdown kind of eased off, I started going out dancing. Then I got to the nomadic life of I put everything in storage. I went to visit my family in Iran for like 4 or 5 months. I was like, however I can. That was my thought, that I'm just sitting home, doing work from home, alone by myself, day and night. Days go by. It was like 1.5 years of a pandemic, right? Days were going by. I was just alone by myself. It was really nothing. Maybe I would get to dance once a month with a friend. We would practice outside in like downtown Mountain View. We would dance in the like a sidewalk, kind of like a side plaza. Anyway, so I was like, instead of sitting here and be depressed, I was really depressed. I was like, I can go do the same thing next to my family. At least there's some people around me that they can accept me. Because, you know, I'm sure you remember during pandemic, people were really distancing from each other. Like if you go on the street, I remember I would go for a run.
And people would go on
I
the
would
other
go
side.
to the other side of the street, just, because you're running without a mask. They were like, okay, this is a huge exhaling threat is coming towards me. So my first goal was, okay, I'll go for like 4 or 5 months, as much as I can be outside the United States. I'll stay there and then I come back. So I put everything in storage. I went there. After about 2 months, I realized, I'm really missing tango, because tango had already started, right? The dancing had already started. When I moved, when I put everything in storage and left, I was already back to dancing with people. So when I left, there was basically no tango for me, because I was going to Iran and I was not going to explore dancing in Iran in a kind of coming out of pandemic phase and risking everyone. So I was like, no tango. I'm just going to visit my family. But then I missed tango so much, and I already had recovered from all that sadness and isolation in that like 2 months or something that I was just spending time with them. So I was like, okay, I can go back. I'm good. When I came back, I decided to continue this nomadic experience a little longer, which is now over 1.5 years, maybe. It's almost becoming 2 years. September will be 2 years.
And so that what does that look like? You're basically dancing in a different place every weekend?
Kinda. Right now, that was the case before we had to go back to office on Wednesdays. So I was basically going anywhere. I was in New York. I went to Canada multiple times. I went to Arizona. Like, so many different places I went for dancing. Even I went to Mexico. But now we need to be in the office Wednesdays. So I can skip maybe a Wednesday or two, but I cannot keep skipping Wednesdays. So I end up going like maybe 2 weekends out and then be in the Bay Area for like maybe 2 weekends or a weekend or two, and then go back again. So right now it's kind of a in and out, half in, half out kind of experience. If I can change that, I will definitely go back to the full-time remote again, to just go connect the weekends. Each weekend
somewhere
go
different.
Somewhere, yeah.
There's an addictive quality there.
Absolutely,
that seems like what is it about the actual, because for me, traveling for tango, a lot of times like, okay, I got to get my stuff together, I got to arrange, like it's sort of a headache. Absolutely. And I can do it and it's fun, but then I sort of need a few weeks to just kind of recover from that. But there seems to be something you're after. What is that excitement for you?
So I hear you totally. I had the same experience. Every weekend I wanted to travel, I had to like think about what are the things I need to pack, how many shirts, how many pants, how many shoes, how many socks, like how's the weather there, do I need do I need my running gear, am I gonna run, am I not gonna run? But now things are pretty streamlined for me, because I have a suitcase that it has technically everything I need in it. From the warm weather to slightly cold weather, I can survive with that suitcase, and it's fully optimized for tango.
And your coworkers know about your lifestyle? Do they know how?
Some of them know, not all of them. Yeah, some of them know,
and
most of them know.
What do they think about it? I mean, do they?
I mean, they don't really know what is going on. They know that I dance,
but they don't understand what that means.
They don't exactly know what that means. Yeah, and none of them are on my Facebook either. So they maybe they looked me up on Facebook, but they're not friends with me on Facebook.
So they don't know your whereabouts. It seems that tango is sort of appropriate for people who are more engineer-minded. There's a lot of engineers in tango that I've met, either software engineers or other types of engineers. But it also seems like there's a huge roadblock or an obstacle to overcome to get people like that to realize that is something that they could do pretty easily, because they might not think of themselves as dancers. They might say like, no, this is not for me. Yeah. What do you think they need to understand, or what is the thing that they first need to realize before tango becomes more attractive to them?
Right. So I think it's actually not just engineers, everybody in the modern age, in today's world, it applies to all of us, that we kind of don't know neck down exists. Like we always think that we live up here, we live in our head, and the rest of the body is just there to sustain this work. I don't know how does this work, but I think like pretty much all of us are disconnected from our body. We just think the brain, if we have rested, if we have food, enough food, and if we are ready to go, basically, like there's no pain to do something. Like nobody cares about what is happening neck below. A person was saying that she was actually saying, it was her, she was saying it's nice after dancing tango you realize that neck below exists. There's something here to work with. So I think that's really important, to know the rest of the body and connect with the rest of the body, that take care of it, know how it feels, if the range of motion is there, if you have flexibility, what happens if you get older? Of course it's going to reduce, it's going to come with a lot of more pain, especially that these days we just sit down, we don't do anything with our body, not even necessarily walking or exercising or anything. So it's just bodies, just we drag it from place to place without knowing what happens. And with dancing and with tango, not only we can realize it, we can also enjoy it more, like do things with it that creates hormones, makes thoughts, creates energy that we can basically harvest it and enjoy all those states. So I think that's the first thing that people need to realize. They need to do something with their body. You just go walk, just do some exercises, just some stretches, just stretch your body, see how it feels, even if you don't want to do yoga, and then like slowly build it up. So like I think people are generally more happy when they discover that they can harvest happiness out of their body, basically.
Oh, I like that. Harvesting happiness out of their body.
Like when you lie down and put some music and like roll on the floor, kind of stretch in different directions, see how your body is feeling. I think it feels really good. Like even if I'm not in a good mood, that kind of makes me forget about those problems and like enjoy this living moment. In the end, the whole life is this, right? Whatever we are experiencing with this body, and of course a lot of it we can experience with the inside our brain, and we can think and plan and imagine a future or make a disgusting feeling about some topic. But there's a lot more that we don't work with. I think we should be able to work with that.
Do you think that for people, once they understand just, that the connection to the body, that's all it takes for them to then make that leap to dance tango? Because there seems to be, in addition to that, a fear around the proximity to another person. Absolutely. Right? Like that unfamiliarity of being right there in close embrace, perhaps, with somebody they don't know.
Right.
And from all of your experience of traveling to different communities, do you have any insights as to like how to make that an easier or a more smooth transition, or create more willingness for a person to want to experience that? How do you take somebody who's never danced close embrace and say, you really want this is going to be really good for you?
Right. I think small community helps a lot. I think I started learning in Baton Rouge, and I think because of a small community there, I was lucky to be there and to pick it up there. Because I always think that if I was, for example, in the Bay Area that I am now, if I would pick it up there, maybe it would be a lot harder path for me. That's just me imagining. It might completely be wrong. But I'm thinking, when you're in a small community, when you join and grow up, kind of tango-wise grow up in there, they take care of you. Like you're their kid. But when you're in a big community, they already have their own business and fun and whatever that's going on. They might not even see you as a new member joining in. Not that they don't care, they do. They definitely might care, but it's just it's the numbers. The night is a certain number of hours. People are out there to have fun. They see their friends and they have fun with their friends. So if there's someone new, it might completely stay invisible.
Yeah.
And as a new person coming in, knowing that they suck, they're new, they don't know how to do things, it can be a lot of things. They can start blaming themselves a lot for being felt ignored, and that can like basically a downward spiral of falling off the ride.
Now, the nomadic lifestyle that you're living is obviously comes at a cost of like, you don't necessarily have a place of your own right now, like somewhere that you consider home, that's like a home base, and you have to constantly adapt to the changing environment. Does it ever bother you? Like, I guess for me also, I'm aware that you might not be able to have a relationship, for example, because you're just moving around a lot. Right. Does that bother you? Do you ever get lonely? Do you feel like you want that?
So it's interesting that is a good point, that absolutely traveling does not set you up for relationship. It's like it has been people that I was interested in, like, but I never approached it because I was like, I don't even know where I'm next month. Like, what do I tell this person? Like, I like you, so what? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, for sure that is there, but I don't think I see it as feeling lonely, because there's again so many friends, so many people. I get that social interaction when I need. Also, it's maybe a slightly quality of myself because I'm a very introverted person. I need my Maziar time. I need my solo time, so I can always enjoy my solo time, especially as long as I know there's a social activity coming up. If I know that end of tonight or end of tomorrow night or this weekend there's gonna be like party that I'm gonna go see my friends and enjoy, I have no problem being by myself. I can actually take care of myself, take care of the things I need to do my all sorts of solo activities that I do, like running, swimming, biking, yoga, engineering, computing, programming, learning something about that. All these are kind of solo activities, right? I can enjoy those with full attention of myself, not being worried about I'm lonely, things like that. And I know that I'll go see my friends. But this was totally different thing during pandemic, because that part, the expectation to go meet up with friends wasn't there. So it was just alone forever.
Wow.
That was really tough in that time. But no, now it's actually perfect. It's now really nice.
What kinds of things did you learn about yourself during the pandemic?
I was truly thinking that probably a day that I cannot dance probably will be towards the end of my life. I don't think I can survive much without dancing or socializing or this aspect of having fun with my friends. That was really, really hard. I realized that. I mean, at the same time, it's pretty scary because we know population is increasing. We are more entangled. Traveling is a lot more. So basically, all the necessities for another pandemic, another respiratory virus is there, and it's just increasing. It's just the chances are just increasing. So that's scary, but I don't need to worry about that right now. I can just enjoy this is happening. The most important thing I learned, which was that I was so scared that I wanted to live out of a suitcase. I won't have a permanent place. Where will I stay? What if I don't have a place to sleep at night? Like, what would I do? I had so many thoughts in my head that was basically holding me back. Like, no, don't do it. Maybe not yet. Maybe you don't know enough.
So this is at the end of the pandemic?
This is when I was trying to do, and I was thinking about how can I pull this off? How can I put everything in storage, pack a suitcase, go to my family, live a little bit there, and like come back and put everything out of storage and live again in my permanent place. So that was the scary thought. At that time, I didn't think that after that I will continue. At that time, I was just thinking I'll come back, put everything out of storage, and settle again.
Oh, I see.
At that time, it was like only 3 months. If I can do this, that still makes sense for me to put things in storage.
Wow.
Because I didn't want to pay rent when I'm out of here.
Right.
Like, there's no point for me paying $2,000.
So it was in Iran that the concept of just continuing being on the road and traveling was born. And so how long do you feel that you'll do this for? Is this something that you feel is kind of an indefinite path for you, or?
It's very funny that when I came back, I thought, okay, I can continue this a few more months. I thought, okay, maybe I want to dance in New York a month and like dance in, I don't know, Montreal a month. And maybe that's enough. I can put it back. But of course, it didn't. It just keeps going. And now every time I go to my storage, I see all those stuff. I'm like, why am I keeping these? Am I ever going to take these out of here? And so at current moment, I don't have any plan. Like, when will I take stuff out? Kind of hypothetically, in my mind, I think about next year, like 2024, that maybe 2024 is the year that I'm done with it, tired. I'm kind of feeling a little bit of a friction. I feel a little bit of a friction at some points, like, okay, you feel tired, you feel like you want your own stuff, you want your own routine, you want your own place to feel like home, right? To feel like that is your zone. That is not there, and you kind of need to adapt to it wherever you go. It's a challenge. I like it, but at the same time, it's
fatiguing, I'm sure.
It can get tiring, especially when if some problem hits. I think it can show, like, if you get sick, it can easily get devastating. Nobody's there to take care of you, and you don't have your stuff. Like, you don't have your cozy bed or I don't know, like, water boiler.
But for a foreseeable future, for another year or so.
I still haven't seen enough. I haven't seen Europe. I haven't seen Buenos Aires. There's so many places I haven't been. Like, okay, I can explore this a little more. There's still key locations like Eastern Europe, a few European countries that are very well known of, like Germany, France, like Italy. These places that everybody say, like, you need to go visit those places. Also, a lot of places in South America. So right now I have a little bit of a mixed feeling. Maybe next year, maybe the year after. not sure. I remember at the beginning it was so jarring to me. Like, okay, in 2 months I don't have a place. Where am I staying?
Yeah.
What is happening? Like, prices are going up. Everything's going up. I need to book something. But now, I like a week before it, I have no plans. I don't know where I will be in the week before that.
And you just trust that. So it's almost like even your life in general is this complexity that you're sort of embracing the mystery of what's going to happen next and how it might turn out this way or that way.
Right. Well, it's interesting. Like, I think in today's world, we have so much of things that we can collaboratively enjoy without necessarily every single one of us own it. And we still have the mindset that we all need to own our own stuff. I mean, luckily with the technology, this is becoming more available as sharing things. Like, we are sharing cars, we are sharing Airbnbs, a housing situation. There's so many things that people can share Uber ride together, and it becomes more. Like, if the self-driving cars come out, hopefully we don't need to own a car anymore. We can all Uber around a lot easier. But like, for example, when I think of, it's really nice. I had my own speakers, really nice speakers the Sonos speakers that I bought, and I was really enjoying listening to music on them. I like to listen to music kind of loud, and like volume fills the room. I really enjoy that. So those speakers were providing that for me. I was really enjoying my time listening to music with those. But at the same time, it's not the end of the world. I can still have my headphone and listen to my music. Or for example, the coffee machine I was addicted to it. Fiddling with different types of coffee. I would buy different types of coffee, taste them, extract them in a different way, play with the machine to see how I can change the taste. And now I have like a $30 French press that it does the same thing. I can brew delicious coffee and enjoy it. So I think that there are things that we are so focused on. We need to own those things to enjoy them. But then now with this lifestyle, I'm realizing not really. There's so many things I can enjoy instead of owning those things. It's okay. Like, one of the things I'm really missing is my bike, to ride my bike. It's kind of impossible to carry your bike
so
around.
You just have to figure out how you can have a foldable bike that travels with you everywhere or something.
Right. Maybe in Europe I can do something like that. US is a little difficult, but maybe in Europe I can do something like that.
So I want to finish by asking this question, because we've been talking so much about your nomad lifestyle, and you brought up some really interesting ideas about how we're might be so afraid to step into something that's daunting, like living on the road, right? And that fear you had at the end of COVID. So when you look back at yourself in that fear that you felt when you were on the brink of making this decision, and all of the resistance and potential doomsday scenarios that were going through your mind, like, what can you say to that person to give them courage or reassurance, or like, what is it that would be the most supportive thing for someone who might be thinking about that, that kind of step in their life?
Well, I mean, of course, like, doing something like this is serious. Like, for sure, it's not a joke. Somebody would say, just do it, you will be fine. Of course, the infrastructure is there. Like, just do it. Even if you forget to pack something essential, you will buy it on the road. It's not the end of the day. Or you can always go pick it up again from your storage or friend's place, wherever you put your stuff. But I would say try with a little bit of a softer version. That's what I did. I had a little bit of a soft launch before the big launch, but I did put everything in storage. So instead of going all the way to Iran for like 3 months, 6 months, whatever, not knowing what I'm packing, what I would need, I kind of got this opportunity that I would go stay with friends of mine in Vegas for a couple of weeks, and then from there I would go to Mexico for a month, and then I could come back to my storage if I needed to change something in my pack, my package, that I could change what I would need, and then kind of fly off to like a bigger adventure. So maybe something like that. Maybe try to have like a 2-week getaway. See how you can manage it. Maybe you can actually survive in out of a suitcase in a 2-week getaway. You can still keep your place, maybe, right? And see like how does this work, and then come back, maybe do some adjustment. I remember I was kind of paralyzed, frightened in a paralyzing way. That is, I was thinking, what is happening next month? For example,
Right.
like, okay, what am I doing next month? Where am I staying? Where am I going next month? And at some point I was thinking, this is not healthy. Like, I'm enjoying when I'm dancing, but when I'm thinking about this is not fun. This might not be healthy for me. But it's interesting that eventually, now I'm a lot more relaxed than before. I mean, still sometimes I'm like, oh shit, I need to figure out this case because it's coming up, it's coming closer. But other than that, it's now I know, okay, at the end of the day, it's like book an Airbnb. Like, how bad can it be?
Yeah.
Like, you
That's
book 2 nights, book 5 nights of Airbnb, and then figure the rest out. Like, it's not gonna be end of the day.
That's awesome. Yeah, I relate to that because when I went to Buenos Aires the second time, I went with the one-way ticket. You know, it was going to be 6.5 months, and I had put my stuff in storage. I gave away my pets. I sold my car, and there was just this open-endedness. And you're right, it was very challenging to have that fulfillment of the tango part of it and really be able to be in Buenos Aires and take advantage of all the tango energy there. But outside of tango, be in consistent panic mode about what's going to happen next and what am I doing. Right. And then even when I came back to the States, there was this feeling of like no idea what's going to happen next. And it's really, it takes a sort of a different type of stamina to be able to sustain the psychological pressure of that question of like, what's going to happen next. Right. But in a way that, as I'm sort of wrapping my mind around our conversation, it feels like tango is that too, right? The psychological pressure of not knowing what's going to happen next. How is the dance going to be with the next person?
That's a good point.
How is the milonga going to work out, right?
You learn to navigate the unknown.
You just are constantly engaging with this skill to approach the mystery and not lose heart and go into it with a mindset of generosity and mindfulness and, you know, potential that it might turn out bad, and be ready for things not go your way, but also be ready for a great payoff, perhaps.
And that's life, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
In the end, it's not gonna go our way, but
it's just gonna go a way that we might like and we might not. Yeah.
I was gonna add something. So the case that you were saying when you were coming back from Buenos Aires to here, I mean, I'm assuming you probably didn't already have the job here anymore, so you were there like on your own. What maybe if you were working there or not. When you're coming back to US, you had to kind of start with, again, what work am I gonna do to earn money, right?
Exactly.
That's another one of those things. Like, I'm thinking if I go to Buenos Aires, that might be my case. Maybe I cannot keep my job if I go to Buenos Aires. Maybe I need to just not work for a little bit. Maybe I can have a non-paid vacation or something like that. But eventually, when I come back, if I don't have the company, I have to like basically start saying like, where can I start working?
I mean, I didn't have a job. I didn't have a place to stay. I didn't have any money left. Like, it was real zero. And I've done that several times in my life. Like when I moved to Portland, it was the same thing. I had like nothing lined up. I just went to Portland. And when I came back from Buenos Aires, I was staying for a couple of weeks on a friend's couch kind of thing, and had no clue what was going to happen next. And there's nothing quite like it, that experience. You know, it's very spiritual in a way too, because it sort of tests your courage. And as you get exposed to that feeling, you get better and better at recognizing the stages of it, because there's sort of a consistency to how it evolves. Like, first you don't really know and you're freaking out, and then somebody will come into your life and they will say the thing that you need to hear right then. Somebody will have a connection, they'll have a person that you need to talk to, and suddenly you have a place, and suddenly you have a job, and it always happens that way. You know. And in some ways, now that I'm further along the journey, I actually think that perhaps the actual experience of that charge of the anxiety and that sort of thrill, perhaps, of like what's going to happen next, that is the thing that stimulates something to happen.
Right.
Versus if you were to just sort of like, I give up, nothing's going to work out, and you shut down and you don't look for anything else, then you might miss the opportunities, which again is so tango. Right, that's so tango when you go to Malanga and you're just sort of like upset about things not going your way, and you've decided that it's a bad night, then you're not really open to anything else happening.
I totally believe in that, vibrating the energy in the milonga in respect to how you end up dancing with people. Like people, especially I think like more experienced dancers, they feel if a person is in the mood or not.
Right.
And some people might be friends with the person. If they're not in the mood, maybe they sit next to them and chat with them, see like what's the problem, if there is a problem. But some people will really avoid that person because they're just there to have fun. And if they see someone not in the mood, maybe they try to just avoid interaction that night. Like it's like, okay, this person seems to not be in the mood.
And a lot of people are not aware of their own energy that they're projecting.
Right,
they might actually really want to dance. But let's say they're, sitting in the corner like this, which was me early in my tango years. I was so terrified of being rejected that I would find the furthest corner. I'd wear all black and sit there and like, see, nobody's asking you to dance, and it's like, hello.
Nobody can see you.
Yeah, nobody can see you. So anyway, well, I believe this is the first of many conversations we'll carry on throughout this project. So thank you for being on the show.
Of course. Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. First guest of honor for
That's
the
right.
present in person.
Yeah.